2 o'clock is the time, so I will call the meeting to order here in the Governance Committee. Roll call sheet is going around. We do have a quorum, but we need to do an online attendance for attendees, and I see only one connection from the outside via Zoom. So if you, sir, online could identify yourself and where you're located, that would be great. George, I'm talking to you.
Okay.
You're the first time. All right. Where you at, George? That's fine.
I'm in Dallas, Texas, at the International Cat Consortium.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you. So, and George Jensen then noted he's via Zoom. Okay, first order of business will be approval of the minutes. The minutes were sent out along with the meeting invitations. If somebody be so kind as to approve the minutes, if there's any corrections, let me know.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Chief Antoine. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those, all right, but subcommittee reports. Budget committee, and George, I know you're there, but I don't think there's anything that's different from last meeting, in which we said we're waiting. It's still the final system acceptance with our credit. Is there any different to the project status for financial status?
None whatsoever.
No whatsoever. Yeah, none whatsoever. The volume is low a little, sir. We're gonna boost your volume, George. You're pretty quiet.
Is it over here?
That one?
Check that one. I think you can.
Is there volume there?
Can you speak again, George?
Test one.
Yeah.
Try again?
Test count?
Test one.
It's no different.
I don't think it can get any bigger. Can you turn your, yeah, that's okay.
We can hear you, George, but just barely. So we're trying to adjust the volume in the room here.
Eric's here to help, so.
We adjust the volume up, is it there?
Oh, how about a test count again, George? George, can you do a test count? That's better.
Better,
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, so no change to the project status, financial status report. Now moving on to Corey Camp, Anoka County Finance. Corey.
All right, thanks, Brad. Okay, so as we look at this governance committee, this is the basically draft of the budget report that's planned to go in July before the whole jailer. Well, it'll go in May 1st and then eventually to July for approval. So obviously the super formula stays in place. We have updated the calls for service. Val has provided that to me, so it's got the updated because we do the average of the last 5 years. So we added 21 and then use that to create the percentage for each police departments. Nothing's changed there. You know, a lot of the switch in operations, some of the contracts that have fallen off, we've seen with the change from Breda to Bethany, you're going to see a decrease in the law portion of salaries just by nature of your hiring in at a lower than what somebody left. And then we also lost the lineman contract, which was a law only contract. And so some of the shifts in costs is beneficial to the law side and will be picked up by the fire and CAD side. You know, and that's just the fact of what occurred, you know, within the formulas and how they work. Overall, we're seeing what is it, a 0.64% increase in the budget is what's being proposed. So it's about $10,000 over what was adopted in 2022. You know, so think of it that way. The Sloja support contract seems to be one of our largest drivers, as well as a little bit of a change in the maintenance contract for the public safety data system. There are, like I said, some other changes we just talked about around salary and around some decreases in other support contracts, which have caused us to just maintain about that $10,000 level. So Overall, what I just want to take a look at is if you look at the dues, we are asking the dues to go up. What was it? It's a small amount. As we look at the dues, it's like a 0.68% overall increase in dues. As we factor out, the dues will go up higher over the next few years. The percentages go from the 0.68%, 24 would be 2.8, then 8.2 and 25 and 11.7 and 26. We never seem to get there. We always adjust as we go. I think you guys have seen that because we were saying it was going to be 7.5 and we've never done that high of a increase. But this just kind of gives you the projection out for the next 5 years, what it kind of looks like. So overall, this keeps our reserves in that 20% balance area where we had talked about doing about 2-3 years ago. So this says we're still going to use reserves, but we manage the reserves and just get it down by 26 to that 20%. We usually come in under budget, so we have been adding to our reserves rather than reducing our reserves over the last few years, but we are getting closer and we will more than likely start to use reserves as we get through 22, which is planned. So that's not a bad thing. It's just a reality of where we've been. So with that, one of the things I'm going to bring up is on the capital project side, we have that levy that the county puts out, the levy that serves JLEC for capital projects. With that levy, that's just the last page of the budget packet. That levy does sunset in 23. It is planned to remain at the 1.75 million level. There's only one more year to levy left, which is next year. We will be paying back the county for the total PSDS system that is planned to be done. We also have, it'll be in 23, the equipment replacement of the servers, which can be done out of that. And George and I have been talking. 700 is listed here. I think it's going to come in higher than that. So we're going to adjust that. This is new information we just found out. So it'll be a little bit more than that, and it will be all in 23. It won't be happening in 22 because of when we can get equipment. And so that will change, but we have the dollars available to do that. So that shouldn't be a problem. And the other project is the whole radio tower upgrades, which should be finished, I think, later this year. Val, is that right for the most part?
Depending on equipment.
Depending on equipment, again, getting equipment is always an interesting thing right now in our world. Nobody expected that, but if it goes into 23, that's not a big deal from our cost standpoint, because this money, once we have it, until it's gone, we can use it only for capital type projects. And these are the ones that have been approved by JLEC. And we're continuing to walk down that. So I know I'm working with Val and her team to verify what the final dollars will be. These are just the current estimates, and we will have this updated as we head towards July. So with that, are there any questions in the overall budget change? It's a very small change in the details.
And I'll just add is that this isn't something we need to vote on, but it will go as a recommendation to the JLEC to adopt this as the budget, recommended budget. And I think it's formally adopted at the July meeting. So frankly, I see that the budget is good. Boy, a 0.64 seems pretty good for us. We're fortunate that that's the situation. Mm-hmm. And then secondarily, the levy being renewed, and it has come up in this group board to discuss that. Once again, I think that's a better conversation for the Joint Law Enforcement Council, and Commissioner Schulte isn't here to comment on where the county board stands in that regard. But if you recall one of our previous meetings, he mentioned that he was going to discuss that with other board members and see if there was a path forward with that. I know that in previous JLEC meetings, it had boiled down to whether or not this group, or even the Chiefs Association would make some recommendation for the levy to continue, because it would require all the other cities to chime in on that renewal of the statute, correct? And I'll just tell you, those of you who weren't on the JLEC before, is that there was some concern that it would be deemed a slush fund, meaning it'd be money looking for a reason to get spent as opposed to we have a reason to spend X money. And I know there was some, I'm looking at you, Mayor Sanders, because yeah, there was some concern by cities that they didn't want that circumstance to be created. So we just have to know whether or not there's big capital projects, which might fall more like, I would say Val or Central Com or something with the radio system would be more likely that, but I'm sure that'll get addressed at the next JLAC meeting. So
Okay.
I don't have any questions, so thank you, Corey. Good. Are you pulling out of here? No offense, right? But you want to leave. All right, you got it. All right, so the next item then we're on to data standards, Chief Caters.
Mr. Chair, our group did not meet this quarter, which is not uncommon. We didn't have any items for an agenda to put together an agenda and meet. The group remains the same. I have not met with the new law manager. As you recall, Britta had left and Bethany has taken over. So I'll meet with her next week. And Britta did a really good job of putting together items of concern for the agenda for the Data Standards Committee. Usually those come as a result of conversations within the records techs and other staff that bring concerns about how our data is interacting from one system to another. So right now we have nothing on an agenda, and that's not a bad thing. I'm looking historically, we try and keep it up to date with our meetings, our subcommittee meetings, and put everything on that public webpage. I think it's Basecamp we still use. So we try, Britta did a great job of putting all that stuff out there, including our minutes of our meetings. So when we do get together. About it.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Let's move on to next item number 3, contract services and change orders. George, and actually because her name has popped up a few different times, were you planning to talk about Bethany at all, or at least tell a little bit about her? Would you like me to do it? Because obviously I know her pretty well.
Of course, Chief, you can talk about Bethany all you want. I do mean to speak of her during my notes.
You did mean to speak of her?
I do have it planned
Okay.
to talk about where she is in her integrations.
All right, sounds good. So go ahead with item number 3 then. You're a little, you cut out a little, but I think we'll be all right. Once you get going, the sound seems to travel okay.
As far as the contracts and services and change orders, Fire RMS contract ratification is attachment D, and that is simply an extension of Jason Nyhart's contract with through the JLAC to the Fire Protection Council. Jason Nyhart is housed at the City of Coon Rapids Fire Department, and his job is to manage the RMS for all fire agencies in a similar fashion as Britta did for law enforcement, Bethany currently does for us. And this is just an extension of that contract to the point where we have to reach out to cancel that contract. It will not expire now. So.
Okay, yep, yeah, that was approved by the City of Coon Rapids, and I think that contract is completed then, right, George? You have it on file and you're good?
That's completed, but it's got to be ratified by JLAC, the way I understand
Perfect.
it.
Sounds good. All right, so on to item number B, the MOU. And I guess maybe I'll probably talk about that if you don't mind, George. So at the last meeting, we talked about sort of a separation of responsibilities and decided that we needed an MOU between Anoka County IT and the JLAC PSDS system. Is that accordingly, I've been meeting with Susan Vreeland, who's the manager of the IT for Anoka County. And she, along with somebody from the county attorney's office, prepared an agreement that was sent over to me, basically, or me and George, that we went through some of the proposed language. We addressed some, I don't know, just differences, I guess, or had some proposed language back. So now that agreement is back in with Ms. Freeland for a reaction. So this, I would call it just part of the negotiation. And in the end, it's just how do we manage where our system touches other people's systems, whether it's the BCA or individual cities or Anoka County IT. And so that we're just trying to sort out those things so that there's clarity in roles and responsibilities that outlive the characters that are here in this room, not least of which is myself. So that other people that step into this role will know where the boundaries are begin, because it's important, because everybody agrees system integrity matters a lot. And the security of the systems matter a lot. And so anyway, my meeting with Ms. Vreeland, I think was last week. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember, time kind of blurs. But anyway, I would expect a response from her before the next Joint Law Enforcement Council meeting. And it literally is just sifting through the language, and she, just for the record, she's great to work with. So it was a good, productive meeting that her and I had. So, George, did you want to add on to the conversation at all?
No, thanks.
Okay, sounds good. And then I guess before we, well, actually, do you consider Bethany an item 4 number? So we'll move on to item 4 then.
Item 4 is the PSCS update. So we've already talked about Bethany, so I'll bring her up first. Bethany Kuhn has been selected as the law RMS admin. She'll be hosted by the city of Coon Rapids. She's fully on board. She started somewhere around the 27th, 25th maybe of March. And yeah, 25th of March. She traveled with us to the Engage conference with Central Square and got a lot of mentoring time with Britta at that conference. So currently we have a couple of priorities for her. First is meeting and starting to build relationships at all the agencies, discussing their goals, any problems they might have. And then the other areas of focus would be becoming very intimate with all the open tickets that we have with Central Square, and be so we can be reactive when they have solutions for us. And then getting aligned with the Central Square early adopter program. I think we still want to be a part of that partnership with Washington County, because Britt is also going to be on that side helping. So, and the Logis is already part of the early adopter program. We're starting to see some movements on a lot of our open parts of the system. So those are my priorities for her right now. We're also getting her aligned with some of the reporting requirements that she'll have in the future here. So that's, she's working out very well. She's a little nervous, and I just keep telling her you're doing a great job. She put in her first ticket with Central Square and was able to help them get the problem resolved fairly quickly, and she was walking on clouds after that. So I think she's starting to get a good idea what her mission is going to be. As we've discussed, I'm at the International CAD Consortium, which is really a place for vendors and users and technical people like myself and the project team get together and discuss problems with the vendors and the products that they bring to the field. It allows both the vendors to hear firsthand and see firsthand some of the things that we're dealing with, but it also gives them a chance to show off their wares and in the new things that they're doing. We're seeing a lot of really cool things here. So it's been a very busy couple of weeks for that. We are also at the Central Square Engage conference. And the biggest thing that I'll take out of there is 2 items out of there. I had a chance to sit and discuss with their one of their board members the problems that the Central Square has with project management. I was able to prove using several instances how Central Square has no project management philosophy, and that's really something that they need, especially if they're going to charge their customers for project management. And this lady had been sitting there for about, she's only been in position about 2 weeks, but she said, yep, everything you're saying makes sense. And if that's not what you're experiencing, she's going to help us get that fixed. But we've heard that before, right? But the other thing that we heard from them is the board's been completely replaced, new CEO, you name them, they're all brand new. And they're more about partnership than ownership. And that to me is the right direction. not breaking these companies, buying these products and breaking up companies. They're partnering with companies, and we were able to see a lot of evidence of that. And it felt a lot better than previous conferences that I've been working with. The only other thing I'll mention is that Jason and I have been working hard on the creation of an RFP, a request for proposal, for the new, for a potential new fire RMS. FDM is sunsetting. There's no way to look at, it's a 25-year-old software program that has no future in today's environment, and it will need to be replaced. And we started this process last July, and we have an RFP developed, not completely, but all the meat of it is developed, and we've been touring the fire agencies, reviewing that RFP and getting ideas from them, getting more detail for the RFP. And it's been a great experience for both of us. We've completed 10 of the 17 fire agencies. So I think we have a really good product, and I think we'll be pretty much, the meat of that development is done, and then we'll bring it to the Fire Protection Council to decide how we're going to move forward from there. So that's what we've been working with as far as the public safety data system goes. Thank you.
All right, thanks, George. Actually, can I ask you just a question then about whatever new product that you're putting out for FDM? And I'm just more curious, is it leaning towards a subscription service, or is it purchased software and then ongoing maintenance?
Pretty much it all looks to be subscription at this point. Some of the, I have not seen an on-premise RMS system yet. We have been building the RFP under the assumption that they are hosted solutions, which does challenge the team in doing some of the things that we do for our customers, the fire agencies especially, and getting the data back to them the way they want to see it. The number of incidents that they got to, because we don't own that data, it's hosted someplace. So, so far they've had the answers, both the three or four RMS, fire RMS vendors have had ways for us to get copies of the database that we're actually populating. So it's a new world when you start talking about these hosted solutions. They understand customers need access to that data that they're putting in their system. So, but right now there are no on-premise solutions that I've found. So Jason and I will be going out to FDIC at the end of April here, FDIC Fire Department Conference, and all the vendors will be out there, and we have a plan to spend nothing, that we're just going out there for one day to spend with the vendors to get a quick down and dirty introduction of their software and allow them to understand that we are potentially putting an RFP within the next 6 months here. So.
All right, sounds good. All right, so does anybody have any questions on the PSDS update? Well, actually, I will add then about Bethany. Just a little bit of background is Bethany Kuhn did work in support services for Coon Rapids for, I don't know, something approaching 5 years. Then she went to Anoka County Sheriff's Office as support services supervisor. And then now she's coming back to work for George in the PSDS system. And she's a known quantity, just like Britta was. And I have total confidence in her. And yeah, she's got some things to learn, but her instincts are good. She has my mantra at Coon Rapids is, are you kind and are you helpful? And she has both of those things. And so I'm optimistic for her moving forward. So I just wanted you to know that the person they selected was a known quantity, and I think George is happy to have her on board, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely.
Because Britta was a loss. Britta was a substantial loss for us, for sure. So, all right. So on to item number 5, emergency communications. Val.
Thank you. So my update is attached. The only little change we had was I had typed this up before we finished interviews on Friday. So we had 60 scheduled, but we had 24 no-shows. Yeah, so, but we did pass on 24. Now the next step is to do a sit-along, which we'll lose probably half after the sit-along, and they see what the job actually is. So We have 7 openings we're trying to fill right now.
Yeah, because I believe last time it was 4.
Yeah.
So you gained a couple of lines. It's a wheel for sure.
Yeah,
All right.
so everything else is just on there. This is TC week, so to everybody that reached out, thank you, we appreciate it. And we have some fun things for the dispatchers this week, so they get to wear their favorite sports jersey, so they like to do something fun. And it's just a good week for them, so that's pretty much all I have.
Food is very important.
Food is very important down there.
Yeah.
But they're trapped down there for 12 hours, you know, it's a big deal.
All right, any questions for Val? All right, moving on. Actually, I'm gonna warn you, Sheila, is that I am in other business, we should add an item regarding the detention facility, if you're able to give us an update on where you're at and maybe like a little bit on your software update too. I'm more curious, I want to hear, but we'll do that in other business. I just want to warn you in advance. I want to ask you.
No problem.
All right, so new business, number 7, election of the governance chair. As I said last time, is that I'll be retiring from Coon Rapids June 30th, and accordingly, this will be my last governance committee. Therefore, I need to be drummed out of the service here. So, accordingly, we need a new governance committee chair. As you might imagine, there were many interested parties in wanting this particular glamorous assignment. And after a vigorous search, we would like to recommend Chief Jeff Caters to the position of governance committee chair. And the process then to jump him in, assuming he's willing, you're still willing, Jeff?
Yeah, I didn't move fast enough.
Yeah, you gotta say yes out loud, right? So with that, is there anybody else that would like to express an interest in being the governance committee chair? I'll give one a shot here. All right, hearing that nobody else has expressed an interest in being the governance committee chair, I'll entertain a motion to move the election of Chief Jeff Caters as the next governance chair.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Chief Antoine making the motion.
Second.
Second by Mayor Sanders enthusiastically gave a second. All right, so unless there's further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Congratulations. And then the second item under new business is the appointment of Chief Eric Peterson to the governance committee. And that is a function of the chair of the Joint Law Enforcement Council. He appoints members, and I'm assuming you're here of your own free will.
Yeah, you got
Not blackmailing. You got you a moment of weakness.
in a corner somewhere, yeah.
All right, well, welcome aboard, Chief. And I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun in future meetings with this particular group, so welcome, Eric. All right, I guess, I don't know, so you item 8 and then maybe do another business where I'll ask Sheila if he's full stream, or we can just do another business now.
Yeah.
Let's do another business now. Actually, and it's more because the conversation came up last time, is that Mr. Schulte, Commissioner Schulte gave us an update on where the jail was at in terms of being built, and I was really curious if Commander Larson could give us an update where the status of the building is.
Well, right now, there's a committee, a small group of people that have been touring other facilities. They've been to Davidson County, Tennessee, and Franklin County, Ohio, which were 2 that were recommended state-of-the-art type facilities. And then we've been touring multiple facilities in Minnesota, just to try to get ideas. There is plans that are preliminary plans, that have been drawn up, and location, but I'm not sure exactly where that's at right now. There's no timeline at this point. I really think the location right now is probably the biggest, trying to figure out where it's going to end up going.
And that's unresolved at this point? And actually, I'll just ask you, Eric, is there city council, is Anoka City Council?
The Anoka City Council has probably been the hiccup in this
thus far, insofar as what they envision their downtown to look like. And so they have reached out with the county board and had a joint meeting. And as best I can tell, the stance of the city council is to ask the county board to explore other sites within the city of Anoka as an option, as part of going forward. I have personal opinions in it where I think it's going to go, where I think it's going to go as normal, as planned by the, originally, not planned, I should say, as first envisioned by the county. But I think that that is a goal of our council, is to express their wishes to have the county explore other locations before they pull the trigger on the set location of the original area. And so we met, that was in March, I think. And that was an opportunity for me to see a first conceptual drawing of it and of the jail facility. There's a parking ramp that's included in this, and that parking ramp is also part of, I would say, I don't want to use the word contention, but of concern for our council. And so I liked the drawing. I thought that it fit with our downtown, because our downtown has you can build any color building you want as long as it's red brick. And so, and they did well. I thought they did a good job at that. I think that in time, through more negotiations and more discussions with the county board, I think they'll come to a consensus before too long. So,
Good thing.
And it's opening at 540 beds, which is considerably bigger than what we have right now, obviously, because we need the space. Yeah.
Good. And then how are you? You're also working on software though too, is that right?
We're in the middle of that process. We had our first demo. We're down to 2 companies, and we had our first demo all day yesterday. The second demo is next Wednesday. So we'll see. I mean, this project will be into 2023 because it'll take a lot. There's a lot of, it's our civil, it's our warrant, it's the workhouse, and it's the jail. So it's a big.
And it's worth bringing up in this group, sure, too, because it'll be a software system that'll be outside of the PSDS system, but it'll be something that's the connection or the tunnel to the jail record system will be a big deal. It'll be super important. So, and not that we don't definitely want any points of contention. And so we're just interested in seeing what direction you're going to go with that. Find a good solution that covers a lot of bases, and that hopefully it'll be better for everybody involved.
It's a lot of work.
I can only imagine. So do you know how long before you settle on one, or where you're going to move forward?
I don't. I mean, we'll see
Just
the demo next
2023.
week, and I'm sure there'll be some more back and forth with these 2 companies. So.
And the system that you have is still hanging in there?
But they do nothing extra, and they didn't bid in the process either. So they're trying to get out of this business. So.
Okay. All right. So maybe that's not a bad thing.
Right.
All right.
Right.
All right, we're good. Well, is there any other business that anybody wants to bring up?
Since we talked about the jail, Val could give a short update, or we could on the new 911 center, where we are with that, because it's the jail and the 911 center are kind of a package, but yet we've broken them apart so we can proceed with the new 911 building.
They're going to be 2 separate buildings?
They will be, yes.
I didn't know. All right, good. Yeah, let's hear.
So the new 911 center will be built out adjacent to the radio shop in Andover. So therefore we'll all be under one roof. So we've been meeting, oh my gosh, for a few months with Wold Architect, and we've pretty much finalized the drawings. It'll be a 45,000 square foot building with 30 dispatch consoles in it. Open floor plan, have a window. So it'll be nice to work. I know, I mean, it's the little things, right?
Considering they've been in the basement
For a year, and we're super crammed down there. I mean, we added more spaces in our training room during COVID to spread out, so this will be really
How many
nice.
stations do you have now?
Well, we have 12 in the dispatch room, then we have 3 in our kitchen, and then we have 5 in the training room next door, so.
So the way it's being built with 30 stations alone, how big of a population of Anoka County will that accommodate? I mean, the county's going to keep growing.
Yeah.
So you have room. If the county winds up being 500,000 people, you'll be
Good to go.
Space.
Yeah, because of the building, the way the layout of the building is the dispatch floor is about 8,200 square feet. So then there's room in the back, you know, for, we're gonna do like rows, and then there's room to add another rows, and then it's also like that room right there would be our training room. So worst case scenario, we could remove that wall and have it into our training room to expand.
So we'll.
So we
be
looked at
adding-
everything for, I'm sorry, we looked at everything for future, so
There's
yeah,
a
we don't have to
third
do this
floor.
again.
We also have more space out there in terms of just land if we do have to build an addition. You know, that's all the county.
And the alternate site will still be the sheriff's office then?
No, the alternate right now is the radio shop, our
Okay.
alternate, but our alternate will be here, our current spot.
Oh, okay.
So we'll keep those main 12 in
Okay.
the dispatch room for our backup.
And I'm gonna say, we were able, with COVID funds, we did buy new stations. And so that gives us the ability to move those out there, keep the old ones here, so we can have this as our backup with redundancy. The new building, as well as having the ability for us to expand into the future by having the floating floor goes all the way through some other areas that we could look at. But it also will have multiple bays for the radio shop, so you guys can pull your squads in and we can do repair right there. A separate entrance so you can drop off, just making it more of a business unit than a garage in the middle of a parking lot. So there'll also be some nice spaces, I think, for the dispatch center. So they will have a lunchroom that has a view outside, you know, some quiet rooms, a locker room space that will fit, that they can have changing areas, just kind of bringing them where they should have been a long time ago. So staff, I think, has been very involved in the design. Val's been very involved and done a great job. And we're at the point that we hope to go out for bids this summer and have it built by the end of 2023.
Let's push for 2022.
So
Yeah, 23,
it's very
hopefully.
exciting. And we'll probably be ready to share some drawings as soon as we get into the next phase. So.
Is Andover giving you any trouble for the aesthetics of the building? Wink and
No.
wink. You don't need to do red brick? Just
No
curious. Sorry, yeah, I shouldn't.
Don't jinx us, it's going pretty smoothly.
All right, perfect.
But I think the idea that we knew that there was some potential bumps in the road, maybe with the jail, is why we unhooked the two. You know, the funding is all there, but we unhooked it so we could proceed with this one. And I think almost everybody's on board for the need that we have. So,
Because was I right that originally you were going to be housed with the detention center, the dispatch?
It started out that way originally, yeah. But it makes more business sense for us to be next to the radio shop,
Yeah,
because when we have issues, you know, they don't have to drive over here to fix them, they're just right there.
okay,
So it makes it's just a better business sense for us to do with them.
excellent. Well, thanks for the update.
Mhm.
All right, so on to upcoming meetings. The next JLEC meeting is 2 o'clock on May 11th at Columbia Heights with a WebEx option. Historically, the governance meets 2 weeks prior to the next JLEC meeting, and I think I saw July 27th was the JLEC. So Wednesday, the 13th would be the given date for the next governance committee meeting. Is there any objection to that particular date? Is there something big going on that I'm forgetting? All right, good. I don't see any objections. So we'll set that meeting then for 2 o'clock on the 13th of July here, again, in one of these rooms on the 7th floor of the county attorney's office. And then I will say that for the next JLEC, or at the next JLEC meeting, depending on what happens with COVID, but I'm gonna recommend, assuming things are as they are now, is that we will no longer have a Zoom option for voting members. Because to be honest, I hate sweating out whether or not we're gonna have a quorum here, and then all that, the requirements for open meetings and so on, and I'm sure that's gonna get discussed at the next JLEC meeting too. So let's just hope we can keep moving forward and meet in person. So if you really enjoyed those Zoom meetings, sorry. If you're like me and read the paper while you're also in the meeting, those days are behind us, right? So, all right, with that, and I know we don't have any other business, then I guess we can adjourn.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah.